what I'm seeing are people who are just super burnt out. Maybe they're really stuck and plateaued because they're trying all these things, but they're just driving up their stress. Like they're fasting, but their stress is really high as they're fasting.
Yeah.
It's not bringing their blood sugar down. It's causing it to stay up. I'm seeing people with tons and tons and tons of histamine issues. I'm seeing just people having zero stress tolerance.
Yeah.
People who now they go for a walk or they do a workout and they're having these crashes. They're waking up in the middle of the night and their heart is pounding and they actually feel better if they eat. And there's people who are trying to help their blood sugar by not snacking and trying to go from one meal to the next. People trying to not eat before bed because that's good for your blood sugar and insulin and leptin. But people who can't do these things.
Yeah.
They can't go out in UVB light in the middle of the day. They don't have any heat tolerance. And so I started to see like, oh my gosh, all of these people are actually having blood sugar crashes, even if their numbers are not dipping down super low. It may be that, anytime I go below 90, I start to feel like I'm having a blood sugar crash. I feel panicky. I feel shaky, dizzy, hangry, anxious, brain fog, all of these symptoms, any of these symptoms, intense, urgent hunger. And so that's sort of the presentation of people that I'm seeing. I'm seeing sort of two camps: the people who are super stressed and their blood sugars plateaued really high. They may fall into insulin resistant, pre-diabetic, high leptin category, and they're trying to do all sorts of things, but their blood sugar is just not coming down. And then I see the other side where their blood sugar is dropping or feeling like it's going too low. And it's like this group has no stress tolerance at all. And so that's sort of who I've been helping lately and trying to identify what strategies will help both groups of people, because they do need different things.
When it comes to health advice and nutrition advice, there is so much one size fits all polarizing information out there. So today I wanted to bring on a good friend of mine, Danielle Hamilton, who I've known for about 6 years now. And we've hung out in person. We actually hung out this summer, shared an Airbnb in June, and just really talk about this, talk about how people a lot of times need more nuance, and a new group of people that we're really seeing since 2020, that people are more stressed out, they have more blood sugar instability, and how these people need to approach things like nutrition and supplement protocols and functional medicine. So there's really a lot in this conversation. It's kind of like hanging out with two really good friends. So I hope you just pull up a chair, hang out, and enjoy the conversation. Welcome to the Evolving Wellness Podcast, where circadian biology and quantum biology meet nutrition, lifestyle, hormones, health, and everyday conversations. I'm your host, Sarah, board certified in applied quantum biology by the American Naturopathic Medical Board and certified in nutrition by the National Academy of Sports Medicine. This is just a quick little reminder that you'll never hear a guest on this podcast whose every stance I agree with. And that's the point. These are conversations and not consultations. The information shared here is for information and educational purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of a qualified, trusted professional for all of your personal health needs. If you want more of my content, including my free long-form articles with citations, free ebooks, membership group with more access to me and my Circadian app that helps you integrate light into your life seamlessly, make sure to visit www.sarahkleinerwellness.com. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the podcast. Hello, Danny. Welcome to the podcast. So excited to have you here today. And we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We've both kind of been, I feel like we've known each other since 2019 and been through many different things. And I love what you're doing right now. And so I thought, let's just come on and chat all things nutrition, light, blood sugar. That's really your specialty. And so where do you want to start? Maybe we'll just tell everyone a little bit about you if they haven't come across your work before.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be back. And thanks for inviting me on. And just thank you for what you do. I mean, I remember finding you on Instagram back in the day in like 2019, and your handle was carnivore yogi. And I was like, someone else who does yoga and eats meat. I'm like, these are my people. And so, our journeys kind of like are just like, we're having these like parallel journeys where it's like, and then I see you discovering, light and circadian rhythm. And I was like, everything Sarah is saying is making so much sense. Like, I need to look into this. This feels really foundational. This feels like a skill set I need to have. I need to incorporate this into what I'm teaching because, I was helping people with blood sugar, and I healed my own PCOS and all sorts of health conditions. I didn't realize I had hypoglycemia, but I healed everything with a ketogenic diet and what I would now call circadian aligned fasting, because I could never wake up and skip breakfast. That just never felt good in my body. So I would always do like a skip dinner or an earlier dinner if I was fasting. So I healed my PCOS in about 5 months with diet and some fasting, and it was super profound. So I went to nutritional therapy school and I learned how to help other people, and I did end up specializing in blood sugar and helping people with these issues. But then you were sharing things like, oh, the light shining on you impacts your blood sugar. I'm like, okay, I can't, you just can't ignore this information, I feel, once you learn it. So I really dove into that, and it just feels like I doubled or tripled my toolbox and the amount of strategies I have to help my clients and myself keep healing and supporting their health. And one of the things that I noticed was it actually came at a really good time, because the people that I was seeing I started my business in around 2020, 2021, 2022. There was a really distinct difference between the people that I was seeing then and the people who I started seeing around, 2023 through now. There was a big shift. And I think that some of it had to do with the fact that many of us were jumping on that keto carnivore train. People were intermittent fasting, and these things, these protocols and strategies really worked at
Mhm.
first. And so you cling to
Yeah.
what works, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like, this helped me at one point, and even if it's not working, you just cling to it as like, this is my thing, this is my identity. How many, like, you had carnivore yogi as your handle, like how many of us identify so deeply with the diet strategy that we're doing. And it's a normal thing when something is like a lifeline for you and changes your life and helps you heal. So it's obviously no judgment on anyone, but it's just sort of identifying that landscape in those years. Like, I started my keto journey in 2018. So what then I think happened was also during 2020, we got the 5G rollout.
Mhm.
So our frequency environment really changed. All the lights, like 2023, I believe it was, like, incandescent lights were banned. And
Mm.
so our frequency environment, our light environment really shifted around that time. And so on top of this stress from maybe overdoing some of these protocols, doing keto or carnivore or intense fasting for too long, and then add on top of that the stressor of the light and the EMFs. And then on top of that, the stress of what's happening in the world
Yeah.
and that fear. It's just like, I feel like so many people, it's like the SHIT just hit the fan. And
Yeah.
so what we're seeing now are people who what I'm seeing are people who are just super burnt out. Maybe they're really stuck and plateaued because they're trying all these things, but they're just driving up their stress. Like, they're
Mhm.
fasting, but their stress is really high as they're fasting.
Yeah.
It's not bringing their blood sugar down, it's causing it to stay up. I'm seeing people with tons and tons and tons of histamine issues. I also see a lot of this happen post COVID or post jab.
Mhm.
I'm seeing just people having zero stress tolerance.
Yeah.
People who now they go for a walk or they do a workout and they're having these crashes. They're waking up in the middle of the night and their heart is pounding, and they actually feel better if they eat. And
Mhm.
there's people who are trying to help their blood sugar by not snacking and trying to go from one meal to the next. People trying to not eat before bed because that's good for your blood sugar and insulin and leptin. But people who can't do these things,
Yeah.
they can't go out in UVB light in the middle of the day. They don't have the any heat tolerance.
Yeah.
And so I started to see, like, oh my gosh, all of these people are actually having blood sugar crashes, even if their numbers are not dipping down super low. It may be that, oh, anytime I go below 90, I start to feel like I'm having a blood sugar crash. I feel panicky. I feel shaky, dizzy, hangry, anxious, brain fog, all of these symptoms, any of these symptoms, intense, urgent hunger. And so that's sort of the presentation of people that I'm seeing. I'm seeing sort of two camps: the people who are super stressed and their blood sugars plateaued really high. They may fall into insulin resistant, pre-diabetic, high leptin category, and they're trying to do all sorts of things, but their blood sugar is just not coming down. And then I see the other side where their blood sugar is dropping or feeling like it's going too low, and it's like this group has no stress tolerance at all. And so that's sort of who I've been helping lately, and trying to identify what strategies will help both groups of people, because they do need different things. Some
Mhm.
things are overlapping, but it's like a Venn diagram. Some things are not going to help this group who are having crashes. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that's an okay overview.
Yeah, I think the people that are just unable to tolerate sunlight, they're not able to fast. I think that those people are becoming more and more common. Like you said, there's so many different factors that are playing into that.
Yeah.
Frequency wise, light wise, just stress wise. And I mean, if you go on social media, if you get into some of these rabbit holes, you can, and I occasionally get there myself, where I just am like really worked up over potential things that could happen. I mean, it's just a lot out there. You have to really protect your peace now more than ever, because it's very easy to get wrapped up in things. And I think the average person is just bombarded with things all the time, not only just from social media, but again, like blue light everywhere, no outdoor
Yeah.
time. They're completely disconnected from circadian rhythms. They're staying up into the night on their phone scrolling. It's a normal thing that
Yeah.
people are laying in bed scrolling at night, with no, like, just full
With
on.
no red phone. Yeah.
Even I have to stop myself with red phone still, because I can still get worked up even though it's red screen and blue blockers on and all the things. Like, I can
For
still
sure.
freak myself out and get wrapped up in thinking, and so
Yeah.
yeah. But then most people don't even do the red screen. They don't wear blue blockers. It's just like blue light in the
Mhm.
face, non-native
Yeah.
EMF. And so I
Yeah.
think those are huge things that aren't being taken into account when we look at this crisis that we have with people that just have no stress tolerance. I think that's the thing, right? No stress tolerance
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, I agree. So one of the things that you said about, like, just getting worked up and the fear and seeing these events in the world, and you know things that are coming, like I'm having to incorporate so many nervous system regulation
Mhm.
practices throughout the day now, because of where our world is headed, and
Mhm.
things that are just happening and things that we're seeing on the day to day. Our ancestors never would have had access to knowing all of
Mhm.
these things.
No.
So there's that too, just this constant connection. It's like I went away last weekend and I really wasn't on my phone, and it was just, there was so much peace. I was
Mhm.
present. I was in North Carolina. I was hiking. I was looking at the trees. I was outside, and in my immediate environment, I was safe. There's nothing happening. There's nothing going on. And I was trying to really connect with and be present to that experience, because I think that why these things that we are talking about are so dysregulating comes down to the mitochondria, because they are these little sentient sensors, and they're constantly scanning our internal and external environment for threats. And so I've recently learned that one of the things that can be threatening are just things that are emotions.
Yeah.
And so feeling a constant state of fear and like this, digital ID and all these things that are currently freaking me out. And just,
Yeah.
and also one of the things that I found so powerful that really, really impacts so many people are repressed emotions.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us are working on nervous system stuff, and we know, okay, I'm going to do vagus nerve practices. I'm going to do a body scan. I'm going to do a breath work. I'm going to get outside. But if we are in a relationship where the other person, there's resentment there, or where we are historically in a fawn state, which is a nervous system state where our body perceives that the only way to be stressful is to be sort of overly accommodating and people pleasing and codependent, and we're not expressing our needs because we don't feel safe to, or because we've just sort of been trained that we shouldn't talk back to people, or we shouldn't have opinions, or we should stay small, not rock the boat, don't be a bitch, don't be bossy, don't be XYZ. We are suppressing emotions, and they're living in our body. They're living in our tissues and our fascia and our liver.
Yeah.
And what happens is I've recently started a practice called Journal Speak. It's this woman, Nicole Sachs. She has a book called Mind Your Body. I'm making it required reading for every single person in my blood sugar mastery programs, because I truly think that I mean, historically, I've been such a repressor, emotional repressor. And I find that so many of my clients have so many of the same personality characteristics and traits, and we're overachievers or type A personalities or high achieving perfectionist tendencies, and we're people pleasers, and I feel like so many people are falling under these categories, and they're thinking like, I have to try to get it right, I have to do all these things correctly, I have to follow the protocol exactly. And all of this is like, you could see the different fight, flight, freeze, fawn nervous system states that come with all of these tendencies to try to fix things, to try to nail it, because we're so dysregulated. But this is also disrupting our mitochondria. It's disrupting our blood sugar regulation, and obviously all the hormones that go along with that. And so just one example, I have a client who's in a marriage that is having issues, and she and her son are experiencing issues when her husband is home, and her husband went on vacation, and this woman's blood sugar just kind of runs a little bit high. It sort of sits around 100 all day, which is sort of close to that pre-diabetic range.
Yeah.
And her husband went out of town, and her blood sugar was just sitting in the 80s all throughout the day, and she didn't do anything different.
Wow.
And this is where it's like our emotional state is so heavily impacting our whole physiology.
Yeah.
And sometimes we see it very clearly in our blood sugar, which I think of as like a barometer of our stress.
Right.
So it's a really easy thing to measure and an easy thing to see, but obviously that's impacting our mitochondria. We're saying, hey, it's not safe. And
Right.
then they're sort of getting stuck in that cell danger response. They're getting stuck in a protective state, and they're downregulating things on purpose, like methylation, like glutathione production, like they're ramping up reactive oxygen species. And what do? We go to a functional practitioner and we say, you're not methylating very well. Your B vitamins are low. Let's give you methyl Bs. Oh
Right.
my goodness, your glutathione is so low. I want you to start taking NAC or liposomal glutathione. And oh my goodness, your inflammation is off the chart. We need you to get on omega-3s and antioxidants. So what have we done? We've put the body in a stress state. Our mitochondria are responding to our repressed emotion, our chronic fight, flight, freeze, fawn nervous system state, our dysregulated environment, our chronic scrolling, nutrient deficiencies, blood sugar spikes, you name it. And then we're going in and we are sort of trying to make the body not do what it's doing,
Mm-hmm.
but not addressing the root cause.
Right.
And what happens? You get histamine issues because the body's like, girl, I'm doing this on purpose. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm trying to save you here. And then we try to do other things. And that's why a lot of times functional medicine protocols, like everyone's trying to do their best and everyone's trying to help in the ways that they know how. And yes, those things are off, but that's not the way that you fix it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't know necessarily where I'm going with that, but these
Yeah.
are some of the things that I'm seeing with people and where they're really getting stuck.
And what people don't realize with all the supplements is that your liver has to process all those supplements. It has to go through your liver. It has to go through your gut. And a lot of the time, if you're already in a high cortisol sympathetic dominant state, your liver is under stress already.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to give your body more things to deal with to address some of these deficiencies rather than, again, they always say it in functional medicine, and I do think there are some good functional medicine practitioners out there. And I think it can,
There's a time and a place. There's certain
definitely,
tools. Yeah. Yeah.
but it's not root cause. It's not root cause. It's
not.
why is your body rapidly running through these things? Why? Why is your body have no glutathione? Yes, there can be some genetic predispositions, but what turns on genes is environment, is stress, poor diet, poor circadian rhythms. The human genome is controlled. I think it's like between 43 and 83% of the genome is controlled by circadian rhythms. So if you're worried about these genetic predispositions that makes you a poor detoxer, poor methylator, you got to support those things instead of just trying to throw methylated B in there, folate, all those. And there's a time and a place for those. I mean, I've started taking some methylated B this year. Made a huge difference for me because I thought it was perimenopause, but it was my methylation,
Yeah.
So sometimes there's a time and a place, and I do all the things. And some of these things are necessary, but they shouldn't be the first thing you run to.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so interesting to see. And I just want to pull this out as an example of the fact that everyone is so individual and where we're at and what our body needs is so individual. And like you felt better by adding in methylated B vitamins. Well, I was doing a mold protocol and I was told to take NAC and methylated Bs and all these binders and SPM, which are pro-resolving mediators and different things, like all sorts of stuff. And that was the classic protocol for detoxing my body. So I just wanted to try some of these things on my own. And I was just having so many histamine issues. I was getting allergies every morning and night. There was a very clear circadian rhythm to my allergies. It was anytime my cortisol went down, it would be like, boom, I would get them. And then what I didn't realize was actually at the beginning of the year, January and February, I got really sick. And I was just like, oh, it's winter sickness, like, okay, whatever. And then March, there was a time I didn't feel that well, but I didn't feel too bad. And then in April, I got sick again. And I'm like, what the heck is happening here? Like, why am I getting sick every single month? Then I realized it was in the middle of the month. And then I realized, it's during ovulation. And so what I was realizing was that the estrogen peak was driving up those histamines that were already baseline too high for me. And so that was causing a lot of dysregulation and was making me literally feel sick because you get like aches and just, feel well and extra inflammation. And so I started to learn about that cell danger response. And I was already doing all the circadian things. And I would outside 95% of the day and grounding and all of that. But so by taking all these things, I was giving myself all these histamine issues.
Yeah.
And so what I realized is I pulled all of those things out and I needed specific B vitamins, namely B1, 2, 5, 6, and 7, before I could add in a B12 and a folate. So I had to work through a different sort of protocol with B vitamins to be able to even start to tolerate some of these. And I still haven't been able to work up to methylated Bs. I
Yeah.
have to do hydroxycobalamin and folinic acid, which are safe for people with MTHFR like myself, but are just less intense.
Yeah.
So just because, this is all to say, just because you have MTHFR does not mean
No.
you need to take
No.
methylated B vitamins.
No.
And if you are taking them and you have a lot of histamine issues, it may be a good experiment to pull them out and see if some of that goes down. And if you do have MTHFR, you don't feel well, maybe it's something to try, like to put in, but it really comes down to working with a practitioner who
Yeah.
you trust and who can help you put together all these pieces for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, the way that everyone is going to utilize these different compounds is very individual. I know everyone's talking about leucovorin right now, of course. And it's so funny because those of us in the autism community have been talking about leucovorin for 15 years. I mean, it's nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
All the stuff that everyone's talking about in the mainstream right now, the OG autism moms were like, yeah. We've been talking about this for 15, 20 years. Cool.
Yeah.
But fine. Yeah. Anyway, we did some leucovorin for my daughter. And at first I thought this is working great, but then she's a poor detoxer. So it put her to a point where she stopped sleeping completely. She was just manic for about a month. And I called her doctor who's helping us manage. And I'm like, I think it's the leucovorin. I think it's built up in her system because she can't detox. And it's making her have chronic insomnia. And the doctor's like, well, let's pull her off and see what happens. And it took about 2 weeks because she had to detox that out. Yeah. But after 2 weeks, she slowly started sleeping again. I'm like, well, there's another thing, you know, there's like this miracle cure that everyone says is going to work. And then there's always a bio-individual response. So,
yeah. I feel like so many people, and I think maybe this just comes from all of our youth, when we had an ear infection, we would go to the doctor, get an antibiotic, and it would heal. We would, do this. I had strep throat, I'd get the antibiotic, I'd be better.
Yeah.
So I think that so many of us are kind of stuck in this, I just need to find that one thing, this one supplement. Oh, colostrum, like that's the one thing that's going to cure me, fix my gut. I'm going to tell you, and I hate to say this to you, but I'm telling you this will help. It's never just one thing.
Right.
You don't usually only just need one magical thing. Once in a blue moon, there's something like that, but it's never just that, because that person is probably doing all these different things. I think about it like, remember that game Trivial Pursuit, where you need to like get, it's almost like a little slice of pizza. Like you need to get each of the little pieces in order to fill that whole bucket. Right. That's what I think about when it comes to taking care of our health. And I'm sure a lot of your people already know this, but like we have to do the circadian strategies. Yeah. We have to get outside at sunrise, get outside throughout the day, block blue light, like all the things that you teach. Ground, reduce your EMF exposure. That just is a foundational non-negotiable. If you're not consistent with that, if you're like, oh, I haven't been outside in a while because like I can't do it perfectly. Like I had a client say, oh, I'm just not so sure about the circadian practices because, I'm really busy in the morning. And so, I just don't really know. And I'm like, so what I'm hearing is you know that you can't do it perfectly, so you're just not going to try.
Right.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly.
And she's like, that is exactly right. I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad that we named that for you. So it's like, okay, so there are going to be seasons of life. There's going to be even seasons of the year where you're going to have to go into work before the sun rises. Like there's just going to be times where it's not going to be the best. Like we're both inside right now. We're both connected to, there's devices and things, but I have my little light here. I have the window cracked. I have my screen
in front of me. I've got Iris on my computer. Like it's not
exactly. I have Iris on my computer. So so we're just we're doing the best we can,
Right.
and we're not stressing
Mm-mm.
about what
Mm-mm.
we can't control. That's a
Right.
huge piece,
Yep.
right? So we have to get in that piece that is so foundational for
Mm-hmm.
everything to work right. Like if
Yep.
you need to start anywhere, you guys obviously know, you're listening to Sarah's podcast, like that is a beautiful place to start.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that everyone needs to develop a practice where they're working on feeling their feelings, whether that is a journal speak practice or sitting with yourself and or talking to a friend or a therapist and feeling these feelings. You are the only person who could feel your feelings.
Yep.
No practitioner, no one else can feel them for you. And then to be able to regulate yourself after those practices, that's huge.
Yep.
Of course, eating nutrient rich real food. That's something that local, seasonal, I mean, as much as possible, that is another foundation, another really important piece that we need to get in. I often find that my super stressed out people also need extra minerals. They need
Mm-hmm.
hydration. So there's these pieces that we all need. And then I think one that often gets left out is sources of joy. Like
Mm-hmm.
taking care of yourself and trying to heal yourself,
Yep.
it can't take over everything, because what do you even have to live for?
Right.
Even someone who is chronic fatigue, bedbound, like where can you bring in joy,
Mm-hmm.
connection, laughter? Where can you bring these into your life, right?
Yep.
Like that needs to be something that is prioritized just as much as seeing the sunrise, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
that's I think people miss that. And then kind of to go back to what I said earlier with the people with the chronically high sort of blood sugar pattern, high leptin,
Mm-hmm.
there are, I like to think about it again in terms of what's stressing out the body.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to talk about hormesis. So we need the body adapts and gets stronger from certain amounts of stressors, and it's going to be different for everybody. It's kind of like, what is your threshold?
Right.
So some people, especially my people with chronically high blood sugar, we may be able to bring in certain healthy stressors to help bring down
Yep.
some of their stress load. So it's sort of like one is going to offset the other. And so eating less often is going to be a stressor, but
Mm-hmm.
that might be a good stressor for someone who might be picking and snacking all day.
Yep.
Avoiding eating when the sun is down. That's, we're starting to introduce a little bit of fasting or extending that eating window. That can be really helpful for someone.
Mm-hmm.
Lowering carbs even can be a helpful stressor for these people who
Mm-hmm.
have this. Things like UVA, UVB light, getting outside, getting heat, cold therapies, more movement. So some of those things are stressors,
Yep.
but they're hopefully that these people are able to tolerate some of these stressors.
Yeah.
And even fasting, but again, we have to see, it's like, have you been doing this for so long? Is this something where it's like we need to bring down the stress with some of those other practices?
Yeah.
But where I see a lot of people getting stuck is when they're trying to stick to those practices I just named, and they don't feel well after those practices. And oftentimes they end up sort of like self-gaslighting. They're saying, well, I have blood sugar problems, so I should be working out.
Right.
I should not be eating before meals,
Right.
before bed. I should be able to be out in the sun. I should not have to eat like snack between meals. But I see a lot of people where their leptin is so dysregulated,
Yeah.
maybe their insulin is not allowing them to access stored fuel between meals, or it could be the leptin not reading that. And right now, their body actually needs less movement.
Yeah.
It needs to pause the exercise and do more restorative practices, because it's almost like when you're stuck in this state, it's kind of like the body has these glasses on that are seeing the whole world through this lens of everything's trying to kill me.
Yeah.
It's like that peak stress, and the body can't take one more ounce of it. So it doesn't think that you're going for a walk for your mental health and to lower your blood sugar after a meal. It's like, this girl's running from a tiger again.
Right.
Oh my God, wake another day, another tiger.
Right.
That's what it feels like.
Right.
So eating more often for some people can take stress off the body. That's not a long-term goal.
Right.
We don't want to have to eat between meals. We don't want to have to eat before bed. Like, these are things I talk about to help people with their blood sugar. But some people actually have to go backwards before they can go forwards.
Yeah.
So I had a client say, like, oh, we shouldn't try to like push through to the next meal if we're feeling like any of these low blood sugar symptoms, even if their blood sugar is not actually going that low. And I say, no, you do not want to have to, like, you should not be pushing through if you are feeling symptomatic, because that is only asking basically your adrenals to cover for you.
Yeah.
It's saying, I need a bunch of stress hormones right now because I don't have access to stored fuel because my metabolism is so damaged that we're kind of asking the adrenals to pump us with stress hormones to get glucocorticoid hormones that then tell the liver to put sugar in the bloodstream.
Right.
So that's why, like, you get that like a sympathetic activation. So if you try to push through to meals and your metabolism can't handle that, you can get shaky and you can get anxious and urgent hunger. And that's not a willpower thing. That's my body does not have access to burning stored energy. And that's what I try to help with people. And I know you do the same, that it's like, we need to get the body understanding that, hey, I do have stored energy. Hey, it's safe to use these things between meals. And that comes down to making those mitochondria feel safe, that aligning the circadian rhythm, getting all these hormones to be resensitized and have, like, not too much, not too little, balance these things out so that everything can talk to each other. And it's like, oh, Sarah's energy got burned up from breakfast, no problem. Like, here's a little glycogen from the liver, no big deal. Like, right now, it's 12:42. I typically eat lunch around 12 o'clock. The fact that I'm able to do this, like, I don't feel hungry, I don't feel dizzy, I don't feel shaky or lightheaded or spacey or like, oh my God, I need to hurry up because I need to eat. I used to feel like that all the time. I used to feel like that constantly. I couldn't dream of pushing off a meal. And if that's you, you may tend toward this sort of pattern of what I call metabolic hypoglycemia.
Right.
Even if your blood sugar is not crashing low, these metabolism hormones and your mitochondria in the background are struggling to give you energy.
Exactly. Yeah, the people that say you don't need carbs and they're not a necessary macronutrient, it's gluconeogenesis comes with a price. I always say that. You're asking your body to make its own sugar, which it can. It absolutely can. But this is stressful. It's not the body's preferred metabolic state by any means at all. We either want to be burning glucose for fuel or fat for fuel, and most people are metabolically inefficient. They can't tap into the stored fat. They can't go into ketosis in between meals or overnight when they're supposed to, and they don't have enough glucose on board, right? And then the leptin is not it's not registering to the brain, so the brain has no idea what's going on. And so the liver is doing all this extra work, the adrenals are doing all this extra work, and people just feel like a complete failure. Like I heard such and such influencers say that I don't need carbs, that I don't need these snacks and I don't need these things. And my body is absolutely crashing. And I just guess I should push through harder because I heard them say that your body doesn't need this and it can make its own. And it's like, yeah, your body, the reason you feel like complete crap is because your body is telling you it's running out of energy to do this process. That's what's happening right now.
Exactly. And I feel like what I do a lot, and I'm sure you will relate to this too, is give people permission to listen to what their body needs.
Yes.
Like, I am it's so sad to see as many people as I do outsourcing their
Intuition.
intelligence.
Yeah.
I have to follow this protocol. Is the protocol helping? I don't know. It doesn't feel like it.
No.
Then it's not helping.
Right.
Like, it's not, you will feel better when things start to heal.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you don't have to wake up at 5:30 to work out. when you have pre-diabetes and your blood sugar is crashing every night, like that is not helping you. I
No.
love you so much, and that's something that is making you worse. Like
Yeah.
I guarantee if that is your pattern, I'm specifically thinking of one of my clients, and she said, I was afraid to work with you because I knew you were going to tell me to not work out in the morning, and I thought I was
Mhm.
going to hate you. Like, thank
Yep.
you for your honesty.
Yep.
And I'm like, do you hate me? And she's like, no, I'm really thankful that I listened to you, because guess who's able to work out now? Guess who doesn't have prediabetes anymore? Guess whose blood sugar is not crashing? Guess who has painless periods? Guess who's
Yes.
finally losing weight after 4 years of being stalled?
Yes.
So sometimes going backwards
Yep.
and taking out the things that are stressing out our bodies so much, whether it be supplements, whether it be workouts, or just certain fasting practices, or not eating carbs, like you can do whatever you want. Like think about, what is it that you feel like your body needs?
Right.
What if you took away what all the voices are saying?
Yep.
What is your intuition saying?
Yep.
Like, and I think that, to be honest, one of the most beautiful gifts that I got from doing all of these outdoor circadian practices, being in nature, being in the sun, is the return to listening to myself, to my
Mhm.
own intuition. It
Mhm.
gets louder, it gets clearer. And just knowing that I see all of you fawners out there, because I know it's me, that you do not have to do something just because a practitioner
Mhm.
tells you. Like if it
Mhm.
doesn't work, even if it's Sarah or me, if we're suggesting something that doesn't work for your body, maybe you need something else first. Maybe you
Right.
need, like, listen to your own body
Yep.
and your own intuition, and bring that with you to your sessions, to your
Mhm.
coaching, to your practitioner, and work with people who feel aligned with you. And don't be
Mhm.
afraid to say, I did this gut protocol, and this person, like, okay, I have leaky gut and I see the tests, but like, it just doesn't feel like this is helping. I'm not getting anywhere. Maybe that's not what your body needs first. That
Right.
is not the order in which we heal. We
Right.
don't just run to the small intestine and try to like heal leaky gut.
No.
I'm telling you, it
Doesn't
is
work
not going to
that
work.
way. Mm-mm.
No, it doesn't. Like
Mm-mm.
you need to have the circadian foundation dialed in. You need to work on the upper digestion. You need to work on getting your body in a rest and digest state so it can start releasing its own stomach acid
Yeah.
and getting that bile to flow to actually break down the food before it gets to the small
Right.
intestine.
Right.
And I'm saying this because this happened with a client who I saw yesterday. Like she's doing this protocol and she's like, I worked with this person, and I followed this person since 2012 actually. So it's these people who are out there, these big name practitioners
Yep.
charging tons of money. Like it doesn't mean that they have, like, that they are right, you
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah, it's tough because you need to find someone that's going to listen to you. And I always tell
Mhm.
people, if you're gaining weight, and I say this in my courses as well, I'm like, if you're gaining weight and if you don't feel well, this is a sign we need to switch something up.
Yeah.
And here are some suggestions of things you might want to switch up, but ultimately come to my private community and we can help you in there.
Yeah.
Let's talk through some stuff. If you're gaining
Yeah.
weight or you feel like it's not working, you're feeling stuck, stalled, come talk to us. We have
Mhm.
to have dialogue. I have to understand what's happening because I have all these scenarios and say, this is what you should do. This is what works
Mhm.
in this case scenario. These macros are for this scenario. And we have all these kind of best practices, but sometimes you have a conversation with someone and you do hear like they're in a bad marriage, right?
Yeah.
Or they're a parent to a special needs child and they're not getting sleep.
Yeah. This is
There's
big. Yeah.
yeah, there's so many scenarios that can come into play and adjustments that might need to be made with the person. And what gets to me is when people come to me and they're like, "Yeah, I gained like 40 pounds doing XYZ person's program." I'm like, "Why didn't you
Mhm.
question after the first 10 pounds?"
Yeah.
That's where I would have stopped and
Wow.
said, I'm gaining weight on this protocol. Something's not right. Because when you
Mhm.
switch over to, let's say you haven't had carbohydrates in a long time and you
Mhm.
go slowly, the kind of methodology I teach in the middle of the day, outdoors, at the end of
Mhm.
your meal, take a walk afterwards. You have to ease into these things slowly. It's not just about adding, a million carbs on day one. If you
Mhm.
do it slowly, if you do it in a controlled fashion and you have support, you should not gain a bunch of weight. You might
Yeah.
initially put on a couple of pounds of water weight, but because it's a
Mhm.
carbohydrate and you haven't had those, but it should come off. Uh,
Yeah.
if you are starting to gain massive amounts of weight from adding in carbs, then we got to look at what else is happening. Did you pull your fat grams down, or did you just keep eating
Mhm.
what you were eating and then add the carb? There's so many
Right.
things that have to be looked at. And the internet is not a place for nuance. It's a place for sound bites and divisiveness and
Yeah.
disagreements. Uh,
Yeah.
and that doesn't help people at the end of the day.
Yeah. I see the same thing where people are trying to it's like, "Oh, okay, seasonal, I'm going to eat seasonal foods. I'm going to eat carbs cuz Danny said I can eat carbs now because they're in season." And they're super leptin
Yeah.
resistant, they're insulin resistant,
Yep.
and they eat carbs and then gain 17 pounds. And
Right.
it's like, okay, well, like you said, did we bring down the fat?
Yeah.
Because we don't, like, we have to look at
There's
these
a
things
balance.
kind of like a seesaw,
Right.
And I personally, when I started adding in carbs this summer, it was a real eye opener for me who came from like a low carb space for
Mm-hmm.
years,
Mm-hmm.
that I realized I'm like, oh my gosh, it is so easy for me to eat fat.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the past, when I first started, I'm like, what has fat in it? It was kind of
Right.
hard to get that on my
Right.
plate. And now I'm like, wait, leaner proteins, I'm like, oh, I have to get a sirloin steak instead of
A
a
ribeye.
ribeye.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to do 93,
Yeah.
7 beef instead of 85 or 80/20.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, leaner chicken, don't do the skin. Like, it was a learning curve
Mm-hmm.
for me to take down some of that
Mm-hmm.
fat. So I'd imagine that some people who are coming from the low carb space, you don't realize fat is hidden in stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
not always like, okay, you don't have like a giant handful of macadamia nuts on your plate. Okay, you're not eating avocado. Okay, but there's still fat in stuff
Yeah.
that we're not seeing. And we're
Yeah.
not saying like no fat, but you've got to bring it
It's a
down a little
balance.
bit.
It's a
But also,
balance.
yeah, but also just not everyone's ready to
Mm-mm.
put in carbohydrates.
Mm-mm.
And sometimes low carb dieting actually can deplete some of the nutrients that we need, certain B vitamins, for example,
Mhm.
to be able to process carbohydrates again.
Right, right.
So I have a couple of episodes on my podcast about that because it was stuff that I had to learn as I'm putting in carbs for the first time in a really long time. And I did not gain 1 pound
Yeah.
adding in carbs this summer. And let me tell you, I'm not walking after every meal. Like I wish I was. I'm not. Not at all. Definitely way more sedentary than I want to be, but I'm finding, just figuring out that balance and figuring out what works for me. And yeah, it's just because it's the season for something, it might not mean that your
For
body is
you,
ready,
for you.
And
Mhm.
I sometimes think of the nuance I think that I've seen work for my clients is that we ideally a long-term goal is to kind of match up to what the seasons are doing,
Right,
right? So
right.
there's no carbs growing in your season. Cool. Let's do ketosis for a little while. Let's lower those carbs and let's ramp up the fats, get into a state of fat burning, maybe a couple of weeks of carnivore or something, because maybe you live in northern Canada and that's all that's around.
Yeah,
But what if you are living in northern Canada and you're having blood sugar crashes?
right.
Like, I'm not going to tell you, sorry, you have to be carnivore and
Seasonal,
keto right now.
period.
It
Yeah.
we sometimes Yeah, I think that we sometimes have to go out of season because we've
Mhm.
been so out of balance for years and years and years. So
Yeah,
we can't just jump on the calendar and be like, "Oh, this is correct."
yeah.
Once again, it's like it's not just such a cut and dry thing. It's about honoring and accepting, like radical acceptance of
Mhm.
where your body is at right now.
Mhm.
And I think that it's like, okay, I can't go to the gym because this makes me feel like crap. I
Right.
can't take this 2-hour hike because every time I do that, I wake up all night long and
Mhm.
I have these heart palpitations.
Mhm.
Like, start paying attention to does this exercise or does this activity or strategy make me feel good after?
Right.
Does it make me, some people with exercise, they're like, oh, it's the only time I feel good. I'm like, well, how do you feel after that? How do
Yeah.
you
How's
sleep?
your
How do you feel the
sleep?
next day?
Yep.
Right. So it's like checking in to see, are these things helping me feel good or are
Mhm.
they actually depleting me?
Yeah, I think sleep is that big indicator that I always tell people
Mm-hmm.
if they've made a dietary change, how do I know if my body's doing okay with it? If you were sleeping okay before you made the change and then you made a change and now you're not sleeping, then that change isn't right for you. It's too stressful at this point. We need to back out of it in some way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, it's not a one size fits all here. Some people
Mm-hmm.
may be able to go down to 50 grams of carbs a day and feel fine. Some
Yeah.
people, you take them down to 100 and then they're going to stop sleeping. I've
Yeah.
seen that with different clients. And so people are I want to know my exact number and I can give people baseline of like, let's start here. But we
Mm-hmm.
always have to look at how's your sleep? How's your energy?
Yep.
How's your mood? Are you feeling like you're going to snap at everybody, that you
Yeah.
can't tolerate anything? And take that into consideration and make changes if
Yeah.
you need to, because your body is
Yep.
always going to have different cues. I
Mm-hmm.
just got into it with this girl who she thinks she kind of knows everything because she did carnivore for 4 months and then it made her body crash out. And then she's gone to like Ray Peat style. And now she feels so amazing. And so she's on me telling me what I should and shouldn't be saying on social media, which is hilarious. I'm like, how many people have you worked with? Like,
Yeah.
she's like, "You're just a creator." I'm like, "Incorrect. I am a creator, yes, but
Incorrect.
I'm a clinician. I've worked with a ton of people over different
Exactly.
scenarios, different lifestyles. Like, there's so much nuance. And when I say something, I
Mhm.
have a lot of reasoning behind it. I'm not just
Exactly.
going anecdotally. I'm
Right.
not doing that. And when you look at carb tolerance, it's so
Mhm.
many things. If someone
Mhm.
is sitting in an office all day long behind blue
Under
light and
blue
they're
light.
not moving around at all, they don't need to
Mhm.
be eating a ridiculous amount of carbs. They do need some,
Yeah.
I think, but
Mhm.
they don't need a bunch, you know?
Yeah.
And that would
Yeah.
be a situation where I'm like, yeah, a little more ketosis might be appropriate
Mhm.
if they're a person who's high leptin, insulin resistant. Yeah, maybe if this
Yeah.
is going to be your lifestyle, we do need to get your body into a less inflamed state, right?
Yeah.
But if someone's
Yeah.
living in the tropics and they're outdoors all day and they're surfing, yeah, we're going to have a
Mhm.
little bit of a different diet than somebody who's trapped inside of an office. So there's always a context behind things that you and I both say and the recommendations we
Mhm.
make for people. And it's just not a one size fits all sort of a thing,
No. And it's
So,
not a one thing for life thing
no,
either.
it
It's not like,
changes.
yeah, just like the seasons change and,
Mhm.
a lot of your audience and my audiences know about this like shift with the seasons. I think that's a long-term goal to try to get to, but
Yes,
also there's other seasons of life. There might be a season where you're a new mom. There
yes,
might be a
yeah,
season where you're working a lot and have to finish this project and
yeah,
you're working late into the night and you're very sedentary and you're very
right.
stressed. There's a lot of different life experiences that
Yeah,
are also impacting how we need to support ourselves.
yeah,
And I think that all of those things need to be taken into account. And I know it's just another thing to add to people's stress load. And
yeah.
that's why it can be hard to say this to people who are just trying to be like, I'm just trying to find
What do I do?
like a couple
I
of
can't
things to
eat
eat to
anything
like,
anymore.
yeah,
I'm so
yeah, like to
confused.
find baseline.
Right.
Yeah. And so I understand that's challenging, but that's where working with someone like
Mhm.
me or like Sarah can help to direct you and
Yeah,
to help you know how to shift these things over time, because we have worked with thousands of people
right.
and we see like, okay, you're doing this, like,
Yeah,
hey, let's try carb ups. Like, I don't think you need to be in ketosis right now, or
right.
like maybe this low carb has kind of run its course. Like with me, I'm like, I think I've been doing low carb way too long. Like,
Yeah,
I think I need like a significant amount of
yeah,
carbohydrates now.
yeah.
And now, the weather's changing. I mean, not too much here in Austin. It's like early fall, it's still 95 degrees,
Yeah,
but
I'm in
the days
Atlantis
are
and
getting
I'm in a tank
shorter.
top first day of
Yeah.
October. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. I was just in a bathing suit, in the sun before I came on this. But, but still the days are getting shorter, the
yeah,
produce is changing, and it's like, cool. I'm actually now kind of excited to start to bring in more fat and lower these
yeah,
carbs and maybe eat some of these foods I haven't eaten.
yeah,
I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was just talking about how she's struggling with her weight. She has struggled with her weight her whole life, and she's just tired. She's like,
yeah,
I'm just tired of feeling like I have to restrict something. I
yeah,
have to do this and I
yeah,
have to do that, and
yeah.
like I have to figure it out. And I just wanted to I'm like, first I just want to fully validate
Mm-hmm.
how exhausting this feels, to try to be figuring it out, to feel like you're not okay, and to feel like you have to restrict and not do all these things. Like, just take a moment for that, just to feel that. Like, I
Yeah,
get it. It is so frustrating. Also a good time to journal, speak that out. Just saying. Um, but also, one of the things that I've found is that I think that the seasonal approach to eating, once you sort of get caught up to that calendar
yeah,
where your metabolism can handle that, I do think that's a more like an alignment,
mm-hmm.
and like a trying to find this cohesiveness with what's happening and a harmony with what's happening
Yeah,
outside, as opposed to like I have to restrict.
yeah,
It's kind of like honoring and celebrating each new stage, where it's like, oh, right now it's harvest season, cool, like we get pumpkin and apple and
yeah,
these spices, and it's like, okay, cool, I'm putting pumpkin pie spice into my coffee. Like, we get these seasonal flavors. We don't have the seasonal benefits anymore, because it'll be February and it's like a taste of the tropics sale at Whole Foods,
right,
and they're like promoting all these tropical foods that were grown in Costa Rica. I'm like, no, it's not time for that.
right.
So, but just the idea that, okay, cool, like I'm going to enjoy these foods now. Like, I'm going to retire the watermelon for the rest of the
Yeah,
year, because I
yeah,
was really into salted watermelon this
mm,
summer. And it's like, okay, rest in peace, watermelon. See you next summer. And so it can be this like, oh, what's in season now? What
mm-hmm.
is available to me now?
Mm-hmm.
And what am I working with? Because there's always things that we can do. There's always
Yeah,
foods that we can eat.
yeah,
And instead of seeing it from a restriction
yes,
sort of mentality, it's like, what is available and what will nourish my body? What's going to help it maybe lean into that mTOR pathway over the summer versus ramp up AMPK over the winter to do this cleaning house.
yeah,
So thinking about these things as like an opportunity or a season, and just reminding ourselves that this is not permanent. I
mm-mm.
think that when we're so dysregulated, it can feel like I'm stuck like this forever. I'm going
Right,
to be like this forever. I'm going to have to eat like this forever.
yeah,
And it's not. It's
mm-mm.
not that way.
Mm-mm.
So I hope that feels a little inspiring and hopeful.
Yeah, I think so many things. And the thing with the winter is there are cellar stable things that you can have in the winter. If you're someone
Yeah.
who's in a chronic low leptin state, and
Yep.
you need some carbohydrates and it's wintertime, there are options. But like Danny said, you don't want to go for the pineapple and the watermelon and these things that are just not going to make sense with your UV environment. You can go
Hmm.
with your stews that have potatoes in them and carrots and, uh,
Yeah.
God forbid, if you don't have autoimmune conditions, looking at some ancient soaked grains that are going to be helpful. So
Hmm.
there's always options because I get that a lot on my page when I talk about seasonal eating. Like, oh, I live in Canada. There's no way I can eat seasonally. We have cellar stable foods. Like, there are foods that you can
Hmm.
have in the winter time that are going to be a better choice than,
Yeah.
like you said, a banana, watermelon, pineapple, those sorts of things. And you
Yeah.
can't let perfect be the enemy of good. I would
I
rather
love that saying.
someone eat a banana in the winter than a bag of Doritos. Like, let's
Hmm.
just have common sense. Peop- People love to put you in a corner and say that you're some dogmatic person. And it's not that way when you actually have a conversation with you or I behind the scenes. Online, there's things I say because I have, you know, lots of people listening. And so I have to kind
Hmm.
of be careful with what I say, and it still pisses people off. it still is going to rub people the wrong way. But if you actually talk to me in my group or one-to-one, I'll tell you, I'd rather you have a banana than a bag of Doritos,
Yeah.
period.
Hmm.
Like
Yep.
much better choice. You're going to do
Yeah.
better with that. Your body will handle that better. Is
Yeah.
it the best thing? Probably not, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not like eating a freaking 12 pack of donuts. Like, let's be
Yeah.
realistic here.
And if you, go out to dinner in the winter and it's like, oh, none of this is local seasonal, that's okay.
It's
You'll
one meal, you
probably live
enjoyed
to tell the
it.
tale.
You had
Yeah.
fun, you were socializing with people you love, and there's a benefit of that.
Yes.
There's metabolic.
Everything's a cost benefit analysis.
Yes, there's a benefit of having some joy in your life and having the Christmas cookie. I know,
Yeah.
blasphemy, but you don't go around eating cookies for 3 months. There's a difference. There's
Right.
a difference between
Right.
enjoying it on one day and enjoying
Yep.
it every day for 3 months. So we have to learn how to walk that line. And if you're somebody that has one cookie
Mhm.
one day and you want to eat a cookie every day for 3 months, then maybe don't have the cookie, right?
Right.
So there's shades of gray and nuance in all these conversations about nutrition, about blood sugar. We always have to consider light, seasonality, and your individual metabolic health, because everyone's
Mm-hmm.
different. There is no one size fits all.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say that, let you add anything to this that you want, is that we get in this health bubble. This was a conversation I was having with the girl who, the carnivore to repeat, thinks she knows everything chick. God bless. 90% of people live indoors under blue lights, on computers, on phones, eating a standard diet full of processed junk. That is 90% of people. We're in a
Yeah.
little bubble here. So we get caught up in carnivore versus keto versus low carb versus repeat versus most people are so friggin' clueless. They would do better to just, like I said, have the banana instead of the Doritos.
Yeah.
So we have to stop living in these echo chambers and these very small little bubbles and think bigger of how do we
Yeah.
talk to these other people and get them to understand health from this broader lens.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, off my soapbox.
That's okay.
That altercation before I come onto the podcast, probably not the best thing. Like, I'm gonna block this chick. Like, she can't reason with some people. I don't know why I try, but Danny,
I've seen a lot of people just like staying at an extreme for too long, like the repeat, there's going to be an unhappy ending to that because
come
we're
back
not
to me
meant
when
to
you've
eat.
gained 40 pounds.
Right. When you've just been pumping up that mTOR pathway over and over and over, and then it's going to be winter and who knows where she lives. And maybe she's in like Pennsylvania and it's going to be, it might work for a while because your body needed that change because maybe it was too stressed
Because you
out.
went through restriction for so long.
Right. And so sometimes the body just benefits from the change because it's like, oh, yeah, I've been so restricted and oh my God, there's carbs available because if we're sending a signal to our body doing carnivore that like food is scarce and there's a famine here and we need to ramp up all this other stuff like autophagy, maybe the body just runs out of reserves. That's not what it needs anymore. And so to be open and flexible and be able to pivot and I think that's a really important piece of anyone's health journey, and sometimes it takes working with someone who can help you know how to pivot things, right?
And there's a difference between reading a bunch of blogs online, reading a bunch of research, listening to a bunch of podcasts, which is what I get a lot of comments on YouTube of like, oh, this doctor says this, da 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 da. I'm like, that's great. Are they working with any people? Or this person says this. I'm like, that's great. Are they working with any people? Because
we talked about that this summer, that like when I saw you in Tennessee, it's like we are on the front lines working with people every single day.
Right.
And when you hear from someone who has a big social media account but doesn't work with people, maybe they have a doctorate of anesthesiology or psychiatry, and it's like now they're in this nutrition world they could be saying things that sound really
Really
powerful,
good.
and maybe they have a ripped, shredded body, but maybe they live in Costa Rica, and maybe they are a male and you're a female.
Correct.
And maybe, it's like just thinking about what works for someone. And like,
Mhm.
even if they preach it and even if it works amazing for them, you're not a failure if it doesn't work for you. Your
Right.
body, your situation, your mitochondria, your environment, your past history, everything's going to be different.
Mhm.
And so it's like eyes on your own plate, eyes on your
Mhm.
own journey.
Mhm.
And so it's like, okay, I can take this with a grain of salt. Like, okay, that's great information. I'm going to hold it in my head, but it doesn't mean that just because someone's sharing something that it's going to work for you,
Right.
or that like you're a failure if it doesn't work for you.
Right.
So I think that just getting really in tune with, how does this make me feel? How does this make me sleep? Am I
Mhm.
checking all the boxes of doing all the circadian stuff before I'm trying to pile on like, oh, this
Stress.
very extra special supplement or this device or whatever? It's like, if you don't have the basics dialed in, then start there. Start there with all the free stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff
Yeah.
it should not be overlooked.
Right.
Like journal speak and hydrating yourself
Mhm.
and getting outside and grounding and blocking blue light. Like, start there. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful place to begin.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I love
yeah.
it. Well, so much great stuff in here. And where can people find you? I know you've got a lot of programs, great stuff on Instagram. What's the easiest way for people to find you?
Yeah, so I do hang out a lot on Instagram. My handle is Danielle Hamilton Health. And I am enrolling people for my blood sugar mastery program. It's the program where I work really intensely one-on-one with people. I've run it 25 times. It's changed so much throughout the years.
Amazing.
And it's really, anytime someone has a blood sugar metabolic issue, that's where I really help and give them a lot of support and coaching throughout. And I am working on a new sort of smaller DIY program for the people who can't afford blood sugar mastery or get in that group. And that's for the low blood sugar people. It's called
Mm.
Stop the Drops. And so I'm working on that one. I'm really excited about it because I know a lot of people need that information. I feel like there's a lot of info out there for all the people who are like high
High
leptin,
blood.
high insulin,
Yeah.
high
Yeah.
blood sugar.
Yeah.
But what about these people where their blood sugar is dropping? Even if they do have prediabetes or
Yes.
diabetes, if their blood sugar is crashing, then we need to take a different approach.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
it's something that, again, I mean, it's really like my cumulative knowledge and wisdom from working with so many people. And I huge shout out to all of my clients who I've learned so much from. And it's just like a working sort of thesis on how to heal these things. And I keep adding, I keep shifting, I keep modifying. But we're getting people healed faster and faster and with deeper issues. And so I'm really excited to put that out into the world.
I love that. And we'll make sure to put
Yeah.
all those links in the show notes. I think that's definitely needed, especially just people under so much stress and
Yeah.
needing a different approach, something a little bit more specialized. So I
Yeah.
love that. Amazing.
Oh, and one more quick thing. I have these, I just saw my
Oh yeah, your
bracelet,
sun
and
sense.
yeah, my Sun Sense bracelets. So these are UV beads, and I feel like they're such a fun addition. I'm constantly using them with your app, the My Circadian app, and these beads change color in UV light, and so they can help you see kind of like, okay, I know the UV index is this, but what if I'm in the shade? What if I'm underwater? What if
Yeah.
I'm sitting under an umbrella at the beach in Miami? Am I getting like a ton of reflection off the sand? I remember you
Mhm.
got burned from
Sunburn.
that.
Sitting
And
under an
so,
umbrella. Brilliant.
yeah, so it's kind of like a fun tool and can help you see, how strong the sun is. It's not an exact science. It does turn color in both UVA and UVB light, but it can help you see the strength of the sun and also when you're getting infrared. So if you're
Mm,
like, "Ooh, I'm overexposed," or I want to precondition my skin and all of those things, it's a really fun tool. So that's at sunsense.uv on .com or on Instagram as well.
amazing. I bought them for all my nieces. my sister who's a school teacher,
Aw,
myself, like we all have them. I don't have
thank
mine
you.
on today. I have I took off the dinosaur Band-Aid.
Oh, your
Um,
dinosaur sticker.
I peeled it off. It's a Band-Aid because my son
Oh,
he's like, Mommy hurt her hand. I'm like, no, I did. I have like a little like scratch on my hand. So he was very concerned
sweet
about that
baby.
this morning and he put a Band-Aid on me. So
So
I have
cute.
that on instead of
Love
my
it.
beads, but I'm wearing my beads a lot now. They're really, really fun and they're a good teaching tool for kids, especially. So I
Yes.
love them and adults like them too because
Oh,
we need a
yeah.
little bit of
Oh,
that
thank you.
fun and magic in our lives, I think, as well. So
Yes.
yeah,
Awesome.
amazing. Well,
It's
thank
like
you.
the new Aura ring. It's like you're in the circadian community. It's like, oh, do you have your sun
The
sense
beads,
bracelet?
exactly.
And it's like, oh, you're a sun lover as well. You're not
Yeah.
afraid of it. Awesome. Well, thank you so
Absolutely.
much for having me on, Sarah. I appreciate it. And it's always so
Yeah.
fun talking to you because we're so aligned on so many
Yes.
topics. And it's nice to hear other people saying things from, slightly different perspective and angle based on the clientele, but we're seeing so many of those same things over and
Totally.
over. So, yeah.
100%. Yeah, always fun. And hopefully we'll see each other in person again soon. It was good that we
Yes.
stayed in the same Airbnb this June, you, me, and Sarah. So that was like a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll get
Yeah,
to
so much fun.
do more stuff like that again soon.